Alex here with a legal nuts and bolts video on the optics of changing lawyers. I almost did this as a high conflict child custody video because that is the number one place that I get this question from on this channel. And I would suspect the number one place where people change lawyers a bunch of times. Not everyone, but the high conflict ex typically. It is true that oftentimes a high conflict ex will have this pattern of being on their 15th lawyer. It is true, but it's not something that I would say is a hard and fast rule. I think it would depend heavily on not only the specific personality of the high conflict ex, but also on how the case is going. Because you may have a situation where the high conflict ex has a shifty personality, but because the case is going so well, they just stick with the same lawyer. And in my particular situation, my ex only changed lawyers one time. I suspect if early on things weren't going well for her, she would have changed lawyers a few more times. But for the most part, she was getting what she wanted. Maybe not 100%, but she was getting enough that she stayed with the same lawyer. Now, other people have shown me examples of their cases, and then there's even cases that I've covered on Our Nevada Judges where a family court litigant has had like 14, 15 attorneys. People don't even, I mean, it's hard to even keep track. And the question I get is, isn't that look bad? Shouldn't the judge notice that that's an issue and get a hint and rule in the other person's favor since they haven't had 15, 16 lawyers? I can't really say yes or no to that because, to be honest, it's a meta ruling. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please watch my video on the topic, meta rulings. A judge should be making a decision based on the law, not just on the fact that somebody has had 15 or 16 lawyers. Now, I will say that I have noticed a pattern. It seems to me that it doesn't seem to matter how many attorneys an individual has had as long as they show up into court with an attorney. But if the opposite happens, let's say somebody has had 15 or 16 lawyers and then they show up to court representing themselves, then I have noticed that it seems to me the judge holds it against them that they can't keep a lawyer. So it's just one of those situations that makes no sense at all when you think of it rationally, but it's just a pattern that I've noticed. It doesn't seem to matter how many attorneys they've had, as long as they go into court with an attorney, the judge just seems to just go with it. It's when they come into court without an attorney and they've had a history of changing them that it seems to really hurt that litigant, which it shouldn't because it's a meta ruling, but it does. The other thing I wanted to mention is, I guess since I'm in the middle of this topic anyway, is changing attorneys is a stall tactic. There are people who have said that their ex has changed. And again, guys, this is a legal nuts and bolts video, so it can apply to any type of case. It's not really just for child custody, but most of my viewers are high conflict child custody situation types of people. Anyway, the issue or the concern and the issue is that their ex keeps changing attorneys, and so the case keeps getting pushed back. I know that in Nevada this shouldn't happen, but I guess it does sometimes. And the reason I say that is because of the Supreme Court rule that mandates a decision within 6 months. If you want to learn more about it, watch my video on the topic, motions to advance. But for whatever reason, either some judges don't know about it or nobody speaks up and objects. And so there are situations, at least in our state, and I'm sure many others, where somebody keeps changing their attorney out and it keeps causing the hearings to get postponed. I don't know what else to tell you except for hopefully you can get some advice from the video motions to advance and apply that in your situation to force an outcome. There is a bit of good news, as I've heard of at least 2 situations where one of my viewers said that their ex tried to do this and the judge was so concerned with the delay that he agreed to postpone the hearing, but he entered a temporary order in favor of the other person who wasn't causing the delay. Basically saying that whatever you were going to try and get, we're going to just go ahead and give it to you now on a temporary basis. And then at the hearing, we'll decide if we need to go back to how it should have been. And in one of those 2 cases, that's what happened. And the father was annoyed because he was like, I planned my whole case and we're ready now. The witnesses are ready now. But at the same time, he was happy to see that his ex wasn't benefiting from the same stall tactic that she'd used throughout the years. And then the other parent, it actually caused their ex to say, okay, never mind. I'll just go represent myself right now. They were so panicked with having a temporary order that gave their ex everything that they decided to just represent themselves. And then they ended up losing. So Yeah, I guess there's some insight for something that you can bring up if it happens in your case. If you're going through a case and your opponent keeps changing attorneys and they come into court and it's been like forever since you haven't had your your trial or your evidentiary hearing, you might be able to argue that, hey, this is like their 10th attorney. They keep using this to stall. Can I at least get a temporary order in my favor right now so that they don't keep benefiting from these delays? And it seems to me like that would be something that's pretty reasonable request. I don't know what to say with regards to statutes and rules. That would be something nice for the legislature to enact, since it is a pretty common tactic. But as far as I know, there isn't any statute that discusses this issue, aside from other court rules that discuss time limits on entering a disposition, but nothing on what to do when somebody keeps saying they don't have an attorney. All that being said, I hope that this video was useful. It is a very common question that I get because it is a very common thing that occurs. And yeah, leave any questions you have down in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time.